Our road course panel, this is going to be fun. You know, sometimes you got to turn right and turn left to call it racing. And we have some very good representatives from the road course racing world here up on the stage. Starting out on the far from me, the man with the most challenging name of the panel, but I promise I will only butcher it maybe once. But David Broom is the design director at Apex Circuit Design. And before coming to Apex, he worked as a design engineer for winning teams in the World Rally Championships. Apex Circuit Design's specialty is the design of FIA, FIM, CIK-approved motor racing facilities worldwide. David Vodden, I think you've got perfect attendance here at the Racetrack Business Conference, but this is the first time we've had you up on stage. You're the president, of course, of Thunder Hill Raceway Park. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you've raced just about anything on four wheels?
Yeah, there's a word that starts with a WH that fits into that description. And yes, I've raced everything I could get behind the wheel of or on.
Dirt tracks, road courses, even figure eight races?
It was a bad experience.
I kind of figured as well. You've also worn a lot of hats on the business side of sports, and you even subbed for the late, great Chris Economaki.
It actually started my announcing career because I'd been working at Ascot on the motocross of all things, and the race got delayed because of rain, and so it was Orange Show Stadium. It was supposed to be on the weekend of the Motor Trend 500. They called me up, Ronnie Allen, a dear friend, great journalist, and he said, could you do it? And of course I said yes. And that was the beginning, and we announced a lot since.
And Chris,
USAC midgets.
Chris, I once ran into out at the racetrack at a NASCAR event long after he had retired, and he got into it with a security guard and hollered at the guy, "My face is my credential."
Well, you know, Chris's great claim to fame was that he sold the magazine himself. He always liked to brag about the fact that he sold it. I sold Speed Sport News for Chris.
And finally, Mitch Wright is the general manager of the National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park. Mitch has over 35 years experience in the sport. Again, you started when you were about 4, I believe. You've managed some of the coolest road courses in the country. I'm jealous. You've had some fun stops at NOLA, Miller Motorsports Park, and the Pittsburgh International Race Complex before calling Kentucky home. So guys, I'm going to ask the first question. I'm going to start out with David. What are the latest trends in track design?
Well, for me, the latest trends in track design is trying to make a track that's exciting to drive, exciting to watch and race. It's also about creating a very safe environment for all the competitors and the spectators that come and watch the event. In addition, circuit owners and investors in circuit facilities are looking at not only building a facility because it may be their passion, but also to ensure that they get a return on their investment. So a trend is very much a case of investors coming to us, wanting us to develop them commercially sustainable motorsport venues, which may not be exciting to hear, but that's one of the key defining one of our unique selling points as a company.
David, how important is having variability to your track design? Because there at Thunder Hill, where you just enjoyed some of the greatest weather during your 25-hour race that you've ever had.
Sort of.
How important is variability?
Well, I see variability as the ability to create revenue streams from a variety of activities. In terms of the design, now, we had a building boom in America for road courses about mid-90s, and I think it's actually over, but there was a number of tracks built both by passionate, wealthy people and also by organizations who wanted to serve the recreational market. So at Thunder Hill, we just need to be able to serve the motorcycle community, the road racing community, both amateur and semi-professional, the streetcar community, which, by the way, was the biggest change in our world, was when streetcars got on road tracks. Then it no longer became a Friday test day and a Saturday, Sunday event, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday you complained about how poor before you were. We put streetcars and street motorcycles on our track a lot, and that was a big deal, and that's part of accommodating through the design too, so that it is a good experience. The ride itself, the lap itself is its reward, the adrenaline therapy, all that you get when you do a good lap, when you hit a good ball in a golf game or whatever it is that you do, that's what we sell. And I'd say that, again, variability to me is having the ability to provide that extreme reward mechanism that every form of racing provides its participants.
Mitch, I was doing an interview a while back with a gentleman racer, and I asked him why road course racing. You know, you've done everything else. Why do you want to become a road course racer? He's become pretty good at it. He said, because I got tired of losing golf balls in the woods, and so far I haven't lost my car in the woods. Is this the new golf game? Is that what is driving the business at tracks like yours down there in Kentucky?
It's a yes and no answer, at least for us. You know, there's a number of things that are driving the business. For us, you know, the number of racing events we do are relatively small. The number of track days we do and or school type activities is growing leaps and bounds, and is really the bulk of our business. So I guess in that respect, you know, what we were built around was recreational motorsport, and primarily being able to deal with what has become, as David pointed out, the street car, street motorcycle, the very casual user. You know, when David and I think many of you that actually competed, when we started, the only way we could get on a racetrack was to go racing. And all that's changed, and it's really changed our on the way we have to do things and the way we have to look at it. We have to provide the whole experience. The example is when I was asked, what should we build first as we're building a facility, you know, besides the racetrack? And I said it was flushing toilets. You know, the days of being able to get by with outhouses is long gone. I mean, it's part of the experience from the time somebody enters the property and how they're greeted by the gate guard, which sets the tone for the weekend. If they have a bad experience with that gate guard, I mean, it's downhill from there. I'll tell you, at least that, you know, if they're coming on Saturday morning and that whole Saturday becomes shot and you hear about it.
I mean, from a circuit design perspective, we would see that nowadays clients are asking us for a whole range of facilities. We very rarely design a facility on its own to serve one purpose. Our facilities, our clients request us to incorporate as much activity on that asphalt so they can sweat that asset and make as much money out of it as possible. So the facility is I mean, I think these days it's more about multifunction than providing a facility that's just, say, a private racetrack.
So in terms of the golf course idea, we're near the Silicon Valley, the techno center of the world, and we have, there have been articles, one was in the Wall Street Journal, and there are others in magazines down around the Bay Area that describe the yuppie, the rich new techno gentleman or lady, 30, 35 years of old, lots of money, generally driving a high-end street car, and they're coming to the track, bringing clients and people they're networking with to engage them just like they did on the golf court when your dad and your granddad's world. And these interactions were described by these gentlemen and ladies, CEOs and very wealthy people, saying that the racetrack, because of its energy, because of engaging at the level that you do when you put a guy in a Ferrari or an Audi and you take him around the track, or he drives his Audi around the track, because believe me, the people they're talking to have Audis and Ferraris too. Point is that the track is being used to network, to connect, to make relationships, and to build revenue streams and clientele off of their industry, whatever techno or version of the industry they're in. So yes, the racetrack at Thunder Hill particularly has reached out and we've received that kind of benefit. We also have the techno guys showing up, doing private days, parties, and very high-end stuff at Thunder Hill, not to mention the autonomous vehicle technology, which is all over our place.
You guys have talked all about track utilization already, and that's the key to success for a facility. There are only so many club dates, track night in America dates, that's coming up later in the show, that you can fill your schedule with. on a particular week, month, year. Talk a little bit, and I'm going to throw this out as sort of my quiz show toss-up question to you guys. How important are these non-traditional events getting to a facility like yours?
They're extremely important. I mean, we rely on them. The Friday through Sunday business for us is majority of track days. Like I said, we do a handful of races. The market we're developing now is, obviously the fleet training, highway survival type programs, the Monday through Friday business, whether it be various different types of schools, experiences, corporate activity, incentive type programs. Now that we're up and running, we're starting to develop, and David's done an extremely good job of being able to keep Thunder Hill busy darn near 7 days a week, especially during the peak months, and having that utilization is key. No matter what, you still got to pay the taxes, you still got to pay the light bill, and so you really have to figure out ways to be able to generate the revenue, whether it be a cycling event. We do a 5K and 10K events, running events, and those are done off hours. But it just comes down to the utilization.
In Thunder Hill, we will book in 2015 about 486 days using 2 tracks. The 3 mile gets about 345, and then the new 2 mile, which has only been around about a year and a half, gets the rest. But all that activity, all those day-to-day customers who are vital to us, some of which have more than 20 or 25 events a year, 3 or 4 of them have that many, but we just completed the 25 hours of Thunder Hill. It's a major international motorsports event at Thunder Hill, and we don't have any grandstands, keep in mind, so we're in the recreation business, but that event, we grossed the track, not counting anybody's other revenue streams, over $250,000, and that's a lot of Tuesdays.
Well, and I think to add to that, and I'll be interested to hear how David handles this. For, one of the things that we have to strive with our clients, which are the various different track day groups primarily, is to make sure they can be successful. Because obviously we want them to continue to book multiple dates, as many of them do. So how you schedule events, we try extremely hard, and Matt Busby, our track operations manager, has done a great job of this, is not to schedule motorcycle event, car event, track day, or HPD, one right after another. And again, we're talking about utilization, but having to weigh, okay, if I schedule too many of these events on too many repetitive weekends, somebody's not going to make any money. We're fortunate because we're in a pretty central location, but still, there are only so many participants to go around.
David, when you are designing a track and the client that you're working with says, I've got a chance for some driving school type of evasive driving programs for government agencies, or I've got some non-traditional events like that they have in mind. They already have lined up possible suitors for those track days. Do you have to design the track a little different for that, or is it just teaching the customer how to use the pavement they've got?
Typically, unless they ask for a completely separate facility, we would approach the design slightly differently. If they're using the track for a driving school, especially a high-performance driving school, perhaps where they're racing, we would recommend that we try and maximize the runoff areas, make sure there's a lot less to hit in terms of barriers, make sure that the vehicles are going to remain intact if there is an accident, because you don't want damage to your school cars, and that primarily the driver is able to push as hard as they can or experience the capabilities of the vehicle without going too far and causing a lot of pain in terms of money and damage to themselves.
When I talked to you gentlemen before the show to get an idea of a few things that I was needed an education on, shall we say, you talked about manufacturer R&D, driver training for government agencies, driver safety courses, manufacturer events, drifting events. the type of non-traditional stuff goes on and on. I'm going to throw this out as the game show toss-up question to everybody for $50. What type of these events are the best, or just all of the above?
All of the above. I will tell you, the drifting world is coming of age to our track. The new 2-mile track, the drifters love it. I know the Formula Drift fellow is coming if he is not here already, so I want a Formula Drift event. But we have a skid pad that's doing a lot of drifting. So I think drifting is what our young people are doing, so that's important. We don't have a lot of corporate involvement. We used to do a lot of TV commercials. That was before the track boom. And so now having Stanford University there 22 days a year, having a company I can't name whose name on the track bill is called Calhoun, but they're really known as Apple, and having Audi there doing their other technology. Those are all vital things. That's 60 days. We had 33 new customers this year that never were on a track before. And one of the ways we are able to do that is to help create events by finding pieces and parts and assembling them. And we like to say that our operation is turnkey. All you have to do is book the date and call us. We'll do everything else: flaggers, ambulance, date, insurance, everything. All you have to do is turn the key, and we'll and pay the rent, and we'll do the rest. Of course, we charge for all that.
To add to that, I think, we've at past lives, we hosted drifting events. I was fortunate enough to be involved with Formula Drift early on, and the audience that it draws and what it brings to the events like that come to the racetrack are not what you would see at a track day or even a spectator event. I mean, these folks, it's not what they're into. So for us, and I think for any venue like ours, that we don't have any intention to host a spectator event. Those types of events are key. The only spectator event right now that we're even considering, and we have some hurdles that we have to get over to do it, is a drifting event. And at other venues, we've hosted drifting events, and it's amazing how many $5 or $10 tickets you could sell and how many people will show up for that.
I think it should also be added that rallycross these days is growing from strength to strength. And we found that there are more and more people coming to us for rallycross design. We're currently, we work with the FIA World Rallycross, or IMG, who own the rights to FIA World Rallycross, and we've been responsible for 3 designs on their calendar at the moment. We found that the relative cost to benefit of putting in a facility is actually very, very, very positive, and a lot of circuit owners that are looking to bring a new crowd in over and above the more traditional events that you get are turning to rallycross for that big draw.
Well, and I think that's absolutely key. If you haven't been to a rallycross event, they are pretty exciting.
Yeah, the short format of it is fantastic. Short burst racing. Several different heats throughout the day and the weekend. It's just great for today's market where there's a limited attention span.
Question for you, David. You just mentioned you had some 33 different entities on track for the first time. Did they find you, and was that mostly just geographical convenience for them, or if not, can you shed some light on how you attracted them?
Yes to all of that. Certainly we do get the phone call, and we do then enable them to be on our course. The other thing that we've done is we get referrals. For example, Stanford University got us the Audi deal. I don't know where Apple came from, but it might have been another fallout because they're all down there in the Silicon Valley together. The street school, we put on a street school, which is street cars, pay your money, we'll let you go out in groups based on experience, and we'll provide some minimal amount of instruction. That technically became Hooked on Driving, although if you tell David Ray that, he might faint. But that's the truth. And then we do the teen car control clinics. We fill the need by reaching out to the communities around us and saying your teenage driver needs to know more than how to turn the radio on. And so that was easy development. And now we've turned that over to NASA, and they're doing our teen car control clinics. And I'm thinking of who some of them were. Oftentimes as new people coming into the business, these are sometimes small testing groups. A race team is in that category as well. events of small magnitude, but I think largely it's all of the above. But we do look for the right set of ingredients and then go out. We have a thing in our thing that says we can put a day on. You can put a day on. It's in the yearbook. You can put a day on at Thunder Hill. And then it tells them how to do it. And I'd love to think that that worked. Plus our social networking outreach is extremely oriented towards you can put a day on.
In your opinion, how big should be the plot of land to build a road course? The minimum you need to build a road course?
Bigger than what we've got. I mean, it's we've got 3.2 miles of racetrack on just a little over 200 acres right now, which is we've got a lot of racetrack on a small piece of property, and it creates a lot of issues. We have option on additional land that we're looking at.
I mean, for us, we're often asked this question, and it quite frankly depends. It depends on which grade of FIA license you go for, whether you're looking at FIM. If you're looking at an FIM license, you'd need larger runoff areas to accommodate the motorcycles. Indeed, what your plan is for future development. Apex has made a name for itself through commercial sustainability embedded into its design. And as a result, we approach every design a bit like Disney approached Disney World, in that we use the racetrack as the theme park, and that we exploit the land that surrounds the racetrack for the client or the operator to ensure that they will get maximum footfall on site and will be able to extract maximum value from the land. So it can vary from quite wildly, depending on your commercial aspirations.
Thunder Hill is on the balance sheet for $14 million. That includes the 5 miles of 36-foot wide asphalt. It includes a major league clubhouse, a kitchen designed after a Wendy's, a fully functioning kitchen, a completely separate track, 28 garages, all of which are rented monthly at $600 a month, which is a lot for us. So remember, you can rent things on your property. Garage rentals is hugely beneficial if you can get it up. And it's on the books for $14 million. I don't think we could build it for anywhere near that, but that's what it's on the books for. So.
Yeah, we got you a microphone back. It's amazing how that works. Instead of doing our usual last comments sort of thing, with this group, I'm going to do it a little bit different because I have a question specifically for each of the gentlemen. However, since there are no rules here at RTBC 2015, if you guys have a follow-up to the other person's question, please feel free to just jump in and go with that. We were talking about earlier in the day racetrack sustainability, and one of the big problems with tracks is noise. You got to be a good neighbor. You got to try to minimize your noise. David, what can you do as a track designer to help that problem before it becomes a problem?
Well, from the outset of any design work, we try to ensure that any noise considerations are considered. For instance, if there is known to be an issue in the area, then we will look into ways in which we can mitigate the noise. One would be perhaps the use of earth berming around the outside of the track, or any sort of attenuation measure for that matter. We can play with the levels of the race circuit to ensure that the corners are angled in the right directions, and that the elevations are placed in the right locations to allow the noise to be attenuated. Beyond the circuit design, we would also look at things like how the circuit is proposed to be operated. So when in the UK, we have quite a lot of issues when it comes to noise and residences within short distances of many facilities. And one of the ways in which we've managed to get a number of proposals through planning is to consider the facility in terms of noise in a pyramid-like structure, where you would have at the top of the pyramid maybe one day where you're allowed to blast the hell out of anything. But as you step down that pyramid, you've got an ever-increasing amount of days, but your noise range it decreases that you're allowed to hit. this also this helps a level of acceptance within the local community that this facility has to get built to give jobs and provide a benefit to the local community, but also to acknowledge the fact that there will be noise and there needs to be some compromise there.
At our level, the smaller track level, single track entity, first thing we did is we created our own sound restrictions. In California, we don't have any imposed sound restriction on our property, but we do. Why? Because it's smart. It's duly diligent. Nobody in their right mind would run an open noise track, even if they didn't have things around them complaining. We have no complaints, but we have one specific problem called ambient noise. There is no noise but us. So if you don't like us and you can hear the hum and the shift, like at the 25 hours of Thunder Hill, you can make a really big case that we're making horrific amounts of noise. We take constant sound readings all the time. I have books of documentation of sound reading, including failures. So we have all this material, and we did a sound study on the property, never asked by anybody, all sitting waiting for when they come. And don't forget, we have Laguna Seca in our market, and they have the world's worst sound restrictions for a track trying to run a business.
And Mitch, I know you guys have had
we're
your problems.
we're up to our eyeballs in it right now. We just won a battle, but we've still got a long war ahead of us. We also have a self-imposed sound limit. We're using the SCCA. It's in writing. We're using their 103 dB max limit. We're now on our second round of sound studies. There was a sound study done prior to construction, and then obviously with our dealing with our current neighbor situation, we've had another sound study that's based on actuals. So it's something you have to take extremely seriously. It's very expensive to deal with after the fact. I can attest to that. And if you wanna ask me privately how much we're spending, I'll tell you. Between attorneys' fees and sound engineers and sound monitoring equipment, and not only that is what it takes to mitigate the sound. And I think it goes to Daffod's point about taking that into consideration in design, which in our case was not, which hindsight being 2020 should have been.
David, you just got done celebrating the 13th anniversary of the 25-hour race. Are you kind of surprised at all about how iconic of an event this has become?
Yes and no, because things in entertainment, whether it's a rock concert or a certain location or event, they grow a life of their own. And this event has grown a life of its own. I mean, the people that run it, the stars, the celebrities, the high-end drivers, it's just the place you go to race for the sport of it. So I'm not completely surprised. Jerry Kunzman's a little goofy, and when we, he ran a 12-hour enduro, and then he wanted to run this 25-hour, and I said, why 25? He said, because he wants it to be longer than all those crummy 24-hour races. And it started out as basically a gigantic club race with Miatas and all the SCCA and NASA cars. And now, this last weekend, we had more LMP cars. And I think I've said this, but the car that won the race is in the show. It's sitting down there in the Toyo booth, and they spent a fortune, and they made nothing. They got paid zero. I bet it was at least a $500,000 effort to win the race. And we had one guy that won it last year said he was spending $5 million a year. I think he exaggerated. That might have been for his tax man. Point is that I guess the answer is no. I mean, we're an SCCA owned track, and our big event is put on by NASA. Go figure.
And Mitch, the last question I'm going to toss out. How does your experience in your past, as a race car driver and building these crazy race cars and tinkering on them, how does that background help you in your current role to make sure you understand what the racers and what the folks out for a good time want at your track?
Well, I guess I can relate to the pain, being coming up through the club racing ranks and being fortunate enough to have a bit of a pro career. Now going back and getting to the race for the fun of it, as David said, like 25-hour, which I've done a couple times, and it is just fun. You do it for the fun of it. And I guess I'm just so passionate about sport. It's so I want to see it continue. I want to see new people get involved. On the way up here, we had this discussion on how racing has changed. And like I said, when I started, the only way you can get on track was to go racing. And in my opinion, club racing is probably a bit broken right now, no matter which organization we're talking about. And we debated back and forth. We had 4 hours to do it on what would fix it. And we didn't come up with an answer. If we did, I think we'd both be making a lot of money. But it's difficult. Now there are so many opportunities to get on track with so many different types of vehicles. From the lowly subcompact on up, there's so many things that are capable. So it's become much easier just to go out and enjoy driving.
Nicely put. We learned a lot from our road course group. Variability, big key to keeping your track fresh and keeping your customers happy. We learned that you have to be a good neighbor. It's not just a matter of doing it because you're nice. It's doing it to keep people off your back and to be a good neighbor. And also track utilization. We all wish we could get David's number of utilization days out of there, but track utilization the key, and don't say no to any good programs and ideas that the local community might have to use your facility. So I want to thank the gentlemen here on the road course panel. Please give them a hand.